Recording has started.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is currently 10:11 a.m. on August 30th, 2024. And as a note for everyone present, a remote meeting like a regular in-person meeting of the California Board of Legal Specialization is recorded and will be archived on the State Bar's website. The California Board of Legal Specialization will take items on the agenda in the order that they appear on the agenda, and votes will be taken for any items by roll call. Anna, will you start roll call?
Yes. Alano?
Present.
Bennett?
Present.
Hammerschmidt?
Present.
Lee?
Present.
Rucker?
Present.
Sermitis? Not present. And you?
Here.
With 6, we have quorum.
Okay. And now we will call for public comment. The Board of Trustees adopted a public comment policy that applies to all State Bar committees, including this one. Its policy statement states the State Bar of California welcomes public comment at all of its public hearings and appreciates listening to a wide range of viewpoints that reflect the diversity of California. The public comment rules are designed to ensure members of the public may exercise their right to be heard, as well as to ensure that the State Bar is able to fulfill its obligation to conduct public business on behalf of the people of California in a timely fashion. Written public comment may be submitted to the email address on the meeting agenda. We encourage you to submit written public comments at least 24 hours prior to the start of a meeting. Written comments received less than 24 hours prior to the start of a meeting will be distributed the following business day. If you bring materials to a meeting for distribution, they will be collected by the meeting secretary and distributed after the meeting concludes. For oral public comments, persons are encouraged to sign up to speak in advance of the meeting and will be called in the order that they have signed up. Persons attending the meeting remotely will be called in the order that they appear in the attendee list. And in a moment, I'll explain how to raise your hand to tell us that you want to do that. Speakers cannot cede their time to another speaker. It does not guarantee that all who wish to speak will be able to do so to facilitate hearing from as many members as possible. We encourage you not to repeat points that were made by the previous speakers. Simply state that you agree with them and allow the committee the time needed to deliberate on the important topics that it will be discussing today. We will be limiting public comments to 3 minutes per person. As a reminder, the State Bar's anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policy says the State Bar maintains zero tolerance for unlawful harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. Employees must at all times treat other employees, job applicants, and persons providing services to the State Bar with the respect and dignity in accordance with this policy. Likewise, the State Bar will not tolerate harassment, discrimination, or retaliation against its employees, job applicants, or members of the public by any employees or by any person with whom the State Bar has a business, service, or a professional relationship. If you are in Zoom and you want to speak, you'll need to raise your hand unless you are already on the pre-meeting sign-up list. To do so, you click on the hand icon that's at the bottom center of your Zoom window. If you're participating by telephone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. That's the star key and then the number 9. Our coordinator will call members of the public starting with the pre-signups, then on the Zoom list, followed by in-person signups in the order that they raised their hands or signed up. Staff will enable the microphones of the speaker, start the timer, and call out when 30 seconds remain. Do we have anyone that wishes to make comments? Okay, it looks like there's no public.
Actually, we have someone
Okay.
in the gallery. I'm gonna allow them to speak.
They didn't raise their hand, Anna.
Oh, sorry.
It looks like they're just spectators.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for all that are in attendance. We're ready to proceed with the chair's report. This is the last meeting of the CBLS of the State Bar for this year. My last term as chair. Michael will be moving to chair. George will be moving to vice chair. Myself and Jake are terming off. We received 39 applications. 2 new members accepted appointment. First, Damon Livingston Jenkins is an attorney member. He's located in Ventura County, and he is a criminal law certified specialist. We also have a public member from Los Angeles County, Lisa McGlory, and look forward to having them on the board. It's been a pleasure serving on this board now for 5 years. This is my last meeting. Wish we could have had more of them in person, but it's been nice getting to know all of you and work with you. At this time, I would like request a motion to approve the minutes from the from the April 26, 2024 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes?
I have, and I can make a motion to approve the
Okay.
April 26, 2024 meeting minutes.
And that was Pamela Bennett.
Yes, sir.
And do I have a second?
Yes, it's Grace Alando, and I second the motion.
All right, thank you. And then Anna, roll call.
Alana,
Aye.
Bennett,
Yes.
Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Lee,
Approve.
Rucker,
Approve.
Sarmida is not present. Yoon,
Aye.
with 6 yeses, the minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you. And next is staff reports. Report on key statistical indicators, and that's Janelle.
Good morning, everyone. So this report is a standing item where we like to provide program metrics to give an idea of the overall program health. We would also like to specifically identify areas where we experience a 20% change, an increase or decreased where applicable when compared to the last year. So our slide says a total number of specialists as of August 1st. There are any changes for plus or minus of a 20% threshold. It is a total decrease of 19 over the previous year, which is a 3.97% decrease. And the following areas saw decreases with 5 or less specialists. We have bankruptcy with 4, Admiralty and Maritime, as well as franchise and distribution with 2, and as well as appellate and legal malpractice with 1. All other areas saw decreases of 10 or more specialists. We have estate planning with 19, taxation with 16, criminal 13, and workers' comp with 11. So our next slide is the applications received. So this is initial certification applications with the monthly totals for April through July saw increases above a 20% threshold when compared to 2023 to 2024, totaling with those months of 947.27%. And then the year-to-date totals between May and June saw increases above the 20% when compared to 2023 to 2024, totaling in 105.82%. With the recertification applications received in the months of April, May, and July, we saw an increase above 20% with 125.33%. And as well as the year-to-dates for April through July saw increases above the 20% with 271.93%. Applications approved, we have the initial certification. The total months for April through June saw increases above the 20% threshold, totaling 755.59%, while July did see an increase, but it was below the 20% threshold. The year-to-date totals for April through July saw an increase of 280.9% when compared to 2023 to 2024. And the applications approved for recertifications between April, May, and July saw increases above the 20% when compared to the previous year, totaling 378%, while June did see an increase, it was below the threshold. The year-to-date totals, April through July, saw increases above 200% when compared, totaling 396.39%. Here's a list of the total number of resignations. The 2023 year-to-date total resignations process were higher than the 2024 year-to-date. The monthly totals for April, May, and July saw increases above 20% when compared to 2024, totaling 106.36%, while June did see an increase of 50%. Year-to-date totals, April through July, saw decreases below the 20% threshold when compared to 2023 to 2024. And of all the 119 processed in 2023, 69 specifically stated that it was related to retirement, was 58%, while in 2024, 99 specialists reported, and 44 of that was due to retirement as well, with 44%.
Thank you, Janelle. Next is the 2023 annual report on the California Board of Legal Specialization. And that's also you, Janelle.
So the annual report is completed each year to document and preserve the historical data for the program. The notable developments for the 2023 include the Privacy Law Group has completed their initial research into the area of privacy law after receiving approval from the CBLS back in December to continue developing the requirements for certification in that area, applications for the legal specialist continuing education, which was moved from the program to the MCLE department. Providers within the state program, providers within the state bar and the legal specialization unit underwent a reconstruction that divided its operation into two branches with the state bar. We have pre-certification functions, which are within the Office of Admissions, and the post-certification functions moved to the Department of Division of Regulation.
Thank you. Next is an update on the consulting group on the establishment of a legal specialization in privacy law initiatives. And again, that's you, Janelle.
So the consulting group met yesterday for the continued discussion on the establishment of legal specialization in privacy law. They reviewed and discussed the members' research regarding the potential privacy law specialist practice standards for initial certification and recertification and continuing education topics, and the alternative to their examination per Rule 3.116C. The next steps for the privacy law group is to develop a proposal based on their research and recent discussions. This proposal will first be submitted to the committee for review and approval at their next meeting, which is scheduled for October 24th, and then presented to the CBLS for their final approval.
Thank you. Next is a discussion of Admiralty and Maritime law legal specialization analysis. Adrian will be helping me with this.
So during the 2023 planning session meeting, the CBLS did briefly discuss the possibility of sunsetting the Admiralty and Maritime law legal specialization. We did conduct some additional research into the area, and we wanted to present that information here for further discussion. And then we also wanted to update some of the slides that we presented at that time. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So for this slide, we're looking at applicants that previously stated that they were interested in the exam or interested in the area. And we're looking at the past 4 exams. So In 2019, we didn't have anyone who said that they were previously interested. Actually, only in 2021, that was the only year where we got pre-interest for the exam that year. And then when we look at the exam registrants for each of those years, we ended up getting 2 registrants in 2019, 1 registrant from 2021, even though we did get pre-interest for 2. I'm not sure what happened there, unfortunately. Then for 2023, we didn't get any registrants. And then for actual takers, 2019, we did those 2 registrants. They did both fully take the exam, as well as that 1 registrant from 2021. They did fully sit for that exam. And then if we go to the next slide. So here's some costs and revenue related to the exam for Admiralty. We are working on the 2025 exam right now, so we're not able to pull numbers at all for that. But for the top half of the table, that's going to be looking at our costs. Total cost in 2019 was 12,000, just under 12,300. Total cost in 2021 there was 1,900, and then in 2023 costs were what's that? Just under 6,900. For our revenue, based on the number of registrations, in 2019 there was just it was $1,250. And if we just look at 2019 only, comparing that to the cost that year, it was unfavorable by about 11,000. And then 2021, unfavorable again by about 1,800. And then in 2023, unfortunately, because we didn't get any registrants, it was unfavorable by the entire development cost that year. For this one, we wanted to look at exam participation and engagement. We're looking at applications for initial certifications that were submitted in the last 5 years. Looking at applications for recertification within that same time period. The number of certifications that were closed, whether they lapsed or they resigned, or some other reason. And then we have the total number of specialists at December 31st of each of those years. So it has been trending down. And as of today, we currently at 22 specialists in that area. Here we can look at program revenue by looking at the fees that we've taken in from Admiralty applicants. Applications for initial certification. It was just that 1 new applicant in 2023. So there's $300 there. Applications for recertification. So these are the number of applicants who recertified in each of those years. These are the fees that they submitted to us. And then the annual fees submitted by specialists in each of those years. Unfortunately, although there are costs related to the administration of the Admiralty specialty area, and we couldn't really determine the amount of time, staff time, or overhead costs related to the Admiralty area because we administer the program holistically, where staff may be looking at an entire process or a couple of the areas. So we couldn't determine those split out costs just for this area. So that's why we're only looking at revenue here. And then some previous discussion points. In December, CBLS suggested that there was the lack of interest in the area, maybe indicative that the public is not in high demand of this kind of lawyer. And there's not an elaborate program to regulate specialists in an area that the public is not needing. It's not a good use of our resources. Could be narrow clientele. And there was a general agreement was to maybe discontinue the specialty area, but to allow current specialists to continue to recertify. So what this might look like is we no longer develop the exam. So we no longer take in new applicants. But all of the existing, the 22 applicants or current specialists, we'd allow them to stay in the program until they retire, or if for some other reason that the certification lapses. Another thing that was mentioned was polling specialists. And then I guess I wanted to get some additional discussion or thoughts on should we just poll the current Admiralty specialists? What would that questionnaire look like? Or maybe if there's some other audience that we haven't thought of, and then what would those questions look like? And then specifically for the next exam, because we didn't get any applicants in 2023, we actually do have a fully developed exam that we'd be able to administer next year. However, we would still want to contract someone, a subject matter expert, to at least take a look at that exam, make sure that the law is still current, and then make any other edits as necessary. So we would still have some costs related there, and then hopefully we would get registrants next year. Maybe this is a good time just to see if we can even get registrants, or if this area really is trending downward, and then maybe if some other action is going to need to take place after that exam. But I guess I'd like to open it up, see if there's any questions, if anyone has any thoughts on audience types of questions to ask. Something that I did notice, so the state bar does allow for self-reported areas. I pulled up how many California licensees are self-reporting in that area. I didn't check for the overlap to see if any of the 22 specialists fall into that category already. But there were 423. So I think immediately that would be a great target for a poll. Maybe we're asking them, have you heard of the program? How long have you been practicing in this area? Do you have any plans to get started? I mean, I'm open to thoughts for discussion.
And I just want to also remind the group that we've raised the Admiralty specialization in the past. I think here as a concern in terms of the fact that it's not growing, and then also the same issue about the amount of resources allocated to that field. And so, I think our intent here was to provide as much information that we can gather, just to quantify where we stand with that part of the program. And again, as Adrian suggested, is to get as much feedback from this group here as to how to what the future direction of this program could be.
And I can volunteer my thoughts.
Mhm.
I agree if it's sunsetted to allow the remaining specialists to continue to recertify. With regards to the polling, I think I would just target it to current specialists. I'm interested in your, I guess you said there were 400 something practitioners. I mean, that might be worth it to poll them too. And then with regards to the 2025 exam, I don't know, if there's no interest, I don't see the point of spending more money on the exam. My father used to tell me, don't throw, like if there's a bad investment or something, that don't throw more money at it. You just take the loss with what you've spent already. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it seems we could, keep the specialty, but just suspend taking applications. And if, maybe somehow we didn't give it for, a couple sessions in a row, if all of a sudden, there's demand for 7 or 8 people to take it, then we could always reopen taking applications and doing testing. But I doubt that will happen based on what we're seeing.
This is Mike Lee here. I wonder if this is possible, because it seems we've collected the data for a long time. We have 5 years of data, and it seems to have all trended downwards over the 5 years. So, as Grace and Jeff have mentioned, I think my thoughts wouldn't be to end the specialization for anybody who's currently a specialist. But I'm interested in this idea that we still have an exam available that would not take so much significant cost to reuse if we use maybe the poll isn't cost effective, but if we use the poll to reach out to those 400 people, if we already have a test that we've already developed and is ready to go with minimal cost, perhaps it's the last opportunity before we discard it to poll the 400 people, see if anybody wants to take it. If we get takers and we get some people interested, great. And then if not, then by that time the test is, has expired. We've used the last one that we had in the pipeline, and there's no need to do it again. That may be a good use of, since we've already paid to develop that test. We could give one last opportunity to see if anybody wants to take it and join, and then if we have no interest, then we can retire the specialization from there.
Have we ever done any sort of comprehensive polling on what stops people from wanting to certify, or perhaps the standards associated with that particular specialization, such that applying for specialization doesn't make sense within the scheme of what their normal work looks like?
Not, it may be, I guess, before self-reporting was available, I think it would have been kind of hard because we wouldn't have known who would have even been interested. So we wouldn't be able to ask on a larger scale, like, why wouldn't you seek certification? But now that we do have the self-reporting, it's definitely something we could look at even for the other areas. Compare the number of specialists to the amount of people who do self-report. And then one, using that for exam outreach, and then two, depending on what they say, like what are your what's prohibiting you, what's stopping you from getting it. So
Yeah, because I can imagine, at least in my specialty, the specialization requirements are pretty minimal. If you're doing your job, you likely meet the specialization requirements. So I'm wondering if there is some sort of roadblock there where the specialization requirements are prohibitive for that particular specialty.
I can say for immigration law, there's, let's say, for example, family-based and employment-based, and a lot of those practitioners don't cross over and do the other. So that's why they don't feel comfortable that they are specialized enough in the entire field. So I don't know if there's something similar with Admiralty and Maritime.
I think that it may be something like what Grace has mentioned. Oddly enough, I practiced Admiralty and Maritime a long time ago. And a lot of, in my experience, a lot of people who practice in that area didn't do Admiralty Maritime full as 100%. So like one angle is it's personal injury, but if it happens in Maritime, it goes under a different system. But you're basically a personal injury lawyer who sometimes handles the longshoreman issues. And then there's a very, very narrow subset of people who handle the like navigation issues, and it's probably the 22 people we already have. There's only 5 major maritime insurers, so there's only 5 clients out there. So 22 lawyers, so they're four apiece. I think it may be that the client base for this is very narrow, and a lot of the people I'm not sure, like when you pull the 400 people, I think you said, Adrian, you can't tell if they listed other areas.
not as easy.
You have to do them one at a time.
Yeah.
My guess is probably everybody, or a lot of the people, would have Admiralty and 2 or 3 other things. So that may be the thing, is like Grace said, is that people say, well, I do Admiralty, but I wouldn't say I'm an Admiralty lawyer, and that may be what hinders people joining.
This is all extremely helpful. So we can definitely poll the existing specialists. Any thoughts on the questions or the type of information that we want to get from them?
Well, I think one would be, we've seen a decline over the years in the number of specialists in admiralty law. Do you have an opinion as to why that's happened? And do you have an opinion of how we can turn that around? And whether it's worth trying to turn it around?
That may be a good idea to try to solicit their understanding of what's happening in their field. That perhaps they could give us guidance of how to reach out, because it's a pretty specialized area. So their insight it could be very helpful in how you reach those people where they are, what they practice, and then we could see how specialization would work for them.
I think it would be worth polling people on whether or not they think that there are different standards that should be applied with regard to that specialization, or if the standards as they currently are accurately reflect what they would consider a specialist in the field to do.
Maybe.
And I understand. I apologize, Jeff.
Go ahead. You weren't finished.
I understand that would, require them to see what the actual application looks like. So I understand there's an extra step in there, but I think it's worthwhile. If nothing else, you're at least giving people perhaps their first look at what the actual specialization application looks like. Because if it, as Michael was saying, if it is, really a very limited clientele, I can't imagine they care too much about specialization anyway.
Another thing that could be done is, a lot of people are going to get emails with surveys, and they're just going to, like all of us do, just skip them. But if we had maybe the chair-elect and the new vice chair make contact with just a couple of random people that are certified in Admiralty, just say, hey, can we have a little conference call with you and talk about your specialty? And that might be a little more effective way than the poll, at least if we're not getting responses to the email polls that we're sending out.
I wonder, for the poll, since the current specialist is only 22 people, kind of limited. I think Jeff's idea is right. It may be easier to just contact them kind of ad hoc. There's only 22 people. But the poll may be effective if we were able to send something to that group of 400 plus as a poll / outreach. Is that might trigger somebody in the pool of 400 that we don't already have as a specialist that may be interested. The 22 people, we've already got them. They're participating, and they'll probably be here till they retire, and we can ad hoc talk to them. But the 400, they might get look at it and say, I never knew this existed, which not uncommon.
So do we want to consider freezing applications for now, or wait until after we've done this survey and sent out the poll and talked to a few already certified specialists?
Unfortunately, we can't formally make a decision because it wasn't noted that there would be any action. It was just more for discussion. But I mean, it sounds like if we would have minimal costs, we can maybe just do a final review or a final check of the last exam just to make sure it's still applicable, and then this will be our last effort with this exam, and then we'll definitely reach out to that 400 that self-reports, and then depending on the outcome for the 2025 exam, we can come back to the CBLS with a proposed action to just freeze it for new applicants, and then just leave it open for the existing, so that there would be an official action on record.
Adrian, can I ask, I'm not sure with regard to protocol, but is there any space for potentially making 10, 20 minutes available at a future CBLS meeting to allow some of these specialists to who are actually in the particular group to comment publicly on it? Given the fact that we're talking about 22 people and they have largely, I'm guessing, been certifying and recertifying for many, many years. I'm guessing this is an older group of attorneys. I think we owe them at least that much if we're talking about defending the program in the future. I just feel like they need to have that opportunity.
You know what? I'll add that to their poll. Would you be available to provide your input at a future CBLS meeting?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
We definitely can. Sorry, to your original question, we definitely can allow them to and have time for them to discuss or present their thoughts. So
Yeah, then even if they don't respond, maybe the day before the meeting, sending a reminder, our meeting's tomorrow, we're discussing Admiralty. We would love it if you would join us and provide some comments on the area, because we probably never had anybody that's in Admiralty as their specialty that's been on the CBLS. Or at least, I mean, definitely not the 5 years I've been on.
Remember.
Well, and frankly, if they don't, if there's a lack of interest in communicating with us about the specialty, if there's a lack of interest, I mean, I would anticipate that if we would be building up this program in the future, we would need those 22 individuals to be part of that building up and part of that increase in interest. So I think that can be kind of dispositive for us as well.
I would add it has been hard to recruit subject matter experts in this area. So like even with our last exam, it was hard to get people even though I mean I'm not sure it's a lot, but I mean even though they're getting paid to help us, unfortunately
there's just very few of those people out there. And that's, I think, I'd be certainly willing, because there's only 22. It's permissible for me to contact them, right? I could just reach out to them as vice chair and say, do you have any thoughts on this? And
you can, yeah. I mean, their certification status is public information. Like,
yeah,
I noticed you're a certified specialist in the area. I'm on the CBLS.
Do you have some?
We've been discussing this. Any thoughts? Or
yeah, and just to make sure that I understand this correctly, or maybe to mark our calendars, is since we can't do any freeze now, and it seems like there's no cost in carrying the exam forward at present. It sounds like what we should just do, though, is mark the calendar, so to speak, that when we get to the point that we would incur costs to redevelop the exam, we've prepared notice-wise appropriately in advance, so that if we do have to freeze the program, we can do it so as to not have to incur the costs again.
Put those down, those dates somewhere.
Adrian, you froze.
I was saying we can put like a development schedule. We'll make one available for you guys. Just so you can see.
Yeah, because I think it's just looking at the declining numbers. If we go all out to try to bring people in, and it just seems that it's not popular, then it sounds like we may have to take some action on it, so that we keep the program in good order.
Okay, any other comments before we move on to the next topic? Okay, next is a discussion of potential new legal specialization certification statuses. And Anna will present on this.
Okay, thank you, John. Also, another topic we've discussed before during the 2023 planning session meeting. So currently, specialists have two certification statuses. So it's currently certified or the told status. So the told status is when a specialist enters into judicial service. And currently, a status isn't necessarily linked to their state bar status. So if the state bar status goes into inactive or not eligible, their certification status remains active. So there's no linkage between the two. And if a certified specialist becomes a judge, they actually have to let us know. They fill out a form, they check a box that says that they become a judge. They send that over to us, and on our end, we change their status to told, and they actually become waived from their annual fees. And then if they ever would like to become reinstated as a certified specialist, they fill out that form again, they check a different box, and they seamlessly go back into practicing as an attorney. And so when they go back to practicing as an attorney, they do not have any experience requirements because we know that they've been practicing as a judge. So what we want to maybe introduce or propose is the status of the emeritus status. So by definition, emeritus is having the honor of a title, but not necessarily practicing it, and having or practicing it or being kind of like a retired or an inactive. So if we were to implement this, the questions that come up would be who can get this? Who would be eligible for such status? Would it be based on experience? Would there be an annual fee? Would there be a reactivation fee if they were to want to reinstate their certification status? Would there be any reactivation tasks? What would their designation look like during their emeritus status? If they could return, how would they do this? And maybe is the emeritus status something that we can do when their bar status is ineligible or inactive? So this is just something that we want to have some discussion on and get your feedback on.
From an age standpoint, I know a lot of firms have age 70 is where you have to basically go of counsel, and usually your workload is reduced. That might be an age that would be appropriate for it. And I would think anybody that's age 70 that would get it, they're probably have been an expert for 10 years or more. I don't think many people are going to try to become a certified specialist 3 years before they're going to slow down.
This was actually kind of an interesting question, or this in a different direction that I may misunderstand, but wasn't aware, is that our specialization designation doesn't track the bar status. So if someone's suspended, so if they're involuntarily suspended by like State Bar Council, we're a separate process. We don't just immediately remove them from the program.
Yeah, so current State Bar rules require that if we're going to suspend or remove a designation, we have to give applicants 90 days to respond.
Okay.
So that was like another discussion as well, was which we can bring back when we if we ever do take formal action, is propose rule changes where we would allow that direct relation between the State Bar status and their certification status.
Yeah, that seems like something that we have a disconnect, because if someone is suspended or unfortunately disbarred, we probably should track that pretty closely, because it would look odd that if someone was suspended but then you're specialist in some area of law, that seems like that should be tied.
I will note though that if someone becomes inactive or not eligible or anything other than an active status with their State Bar, they no longer show up on the specialist search. So
okay, sure.
If you search for that attorney specifically, their profile will say that they're currently certified, but they wouldn't otherwise show up on like the general specialist search.
Yeah, so the public wouldn't
that.
Yeah, they wouldn't get a suspended attorney as a recommendation.
Correct. Yeah.
There is precedent for automatic suspension for certain things, like for a physician. The moment they enter a jail or a prison as an inmate, they are suspended from the practice of medicine. So we could have the same thing with a rule change, that if you're suspended, actually not allowed to practice law, you're immediately no longer certified as a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, just for lawyers, the due process considerations, that I think it would be permissible if we could essentially just tie this to the general state bar process, and that we just say if the state bar suspends you for any reason, that just automatically is what happens on our side. So if you want to fight it out that the complaint is unjustified, that's you and state bar trial counsel can argue about that. If it goes south, we're automatically out. And then we have our own regulatory side. If they are fine with the state bar, but then they don't comply with our additional rules, then we have our situation. That ironically, that's how I thought it actually worked. It's interesting that seems that actually we're completely parallel tracks on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at the rules. We'll work with our counsel to come up with the proposed changes where we can add that, and then we can bring it back maybe by December. We'll see what the workload is for our counsel, but we can definitely look at that.
And just to clarify, it sounds like the group, and we can't take a vote on it again because this is not agendized, but it sounds like there's some consensus on aligning the state bar rules with the CBLS rules on these large categories of either it's suspended, disbarred, possibly, and maybe even deceased. So those really endpoints in terms of status would parallel what we have for legal specialization.
It sounds like that if we could harmonize that, it would make administration just a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's consistent for the applicant too. They don't have two different things operating. It's one situation.
Okay.
I think we just have to be careful about administrative suspension. Like with what happened with CTAP, I think there are about 5,000 people who were retroactively suspended. So we'd have to consider what kind of suspension would negate the specialization status as well.
So we'll bring a proposal then to the team at the next meeting and make sure it's agendized and we have time to discuss it. So
I think the complicated one. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say any other comments before we move on, but sounds like you got one.
Oh, just the only one that I think is complicated. I think that part's easy. The complicated one is that emeritus status. That's actually, I think, would take a lot of thought through of like when someone is partially inactive and then they come back and then if they're still within the 5 years, do we make them recertify? I think that's actually really complicated to think about. But this other part where you say if you have negative state bar action, we just match that. That seems relatively straightforward. The other part, we may have to spend time while we think about how that works, because that actually seems somewhat complicated. If it's a voluntary matter and they move out of state for 2 years and then come back and they still have 3 years on the clock, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And future applications, if we do have a change in the rules like that, future applications could note that. We put them on notice. If you're applying to become a specialist and you become suspended by the state bar, then this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Before we move forward, any other thoughts about that emeritus? I know Jeff mentioned maybe an age-based. I know you said that you can't imagine someone trying to get certified at let's say 67 or 68 of age, but I feel like we have had more I'm gonna say experienced applicants. I can't say how close they were to that age, but then they would have only been certified for maybe, let's say, like 8 years. Is there a minimum? It doesn't have to be decided now, but I guess maybe we just wanted to get some thoughts or like, would there be a minimum certification requirement? You'd have to have held it for at least 2 terms, so then that's 10 years and then you decide to retire after that. You can have like an emeritus status or.
10 was the number I was thinking. 10 was the number that I was thinking, that if they're certified for 10 years, that seems like it should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a purely just designation. There's nothing other than to make people feel good about themselves about this emeritus status.
Yeah, it would
Okay.
if for whatever reason they wanna have that designation, whether it's for their own marketing or I'm not sure what, but we have had I would say a lot of requests for this for a number of years. So
I'd be interested to figure out what the basis for the request is. It seems a little superficial, and perhaps I'm
Mhm.
in the younger bracket and not thinking about that yet.
I think it came about. Actually, I thought about this for me. The bankruptcy specialist has a high case requirement. You have to have 100 over 5 years. And a lot of people, as they grow in practice, especially if you don't practice consumer, you may have one case over 5 years. And to meet the 100 is a little bit tricky. And then you have to attach all of the state bar explanation things. And after 10 years or 15 years or so, I think it may be appropriate that they have something where you don't show up in the search anymore, but it indicates there was a period of time you were a hot practitioner for that period of time. And then now no more, you don't show up anymore in that situation. But if you specifically search the person, it shows, like past president of whatever sometimes shows up.
Okay.
All right.
Any other thoughts, questions? Sorry. We can bring it back. We'll pour a thought into it. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought maybe what we could do is for the next meeting is maybe bring in kind of like a cost benefit analysis of like what the title is, because essentially it's almost like keeping the applicant or the retiree or inactive status person connected to the program in some way, but what that might look like. And I think we could bring in like the advantages and disadvantages of this status and for more discussion and for the development of a proposal. Does that sound appropriate?
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next topic, which is discussion of 2024 legal specialization outreach event calendar. And Anna will present this item.
Yeah. Okay. So this is on the PowerPoint slide, we see the outreach events we have for the remainder of the year. In the past, we have, as the legal specialization unit, been able to participate in outreach initiatives where the program has been able to bring exposure to the program and been able to set up a booth to be able to offer information and answer any questions to potential applicants. So we have the San Diego Family Law Bar Association in the fall, a family law conference in LA in October, the annual meeting of the Tax Bar Tax and Policy Conference in Anaheim in November, and lastly, the 51st Annual Criminal Defense Seminar in December in San Francisco. So we hope to participate in these 4 events for the remainder of the year. And one of the initiatives we are hoping to implement is a dynamic QR code. So the difference between a regular QR code and a dynamic QR code is that with a dynamic QR code, we are able to track the engagement that we get with the QR codes. So we can track the scans, the clicks, how far people get into the website that we have. So our hope is to have about a 6-foot tall banner that says legal specialization. It'll have our QR code displayed. And that QR code is going to lead the patron to an interest form, which is right here. And so this interest form is something that anyone can fill out. So it's both current certified specialists and interested applicants can fill this out. So it's going to ask for their bar number, their email, the specialty area of interest. It's going to ask how they heard about us. If they are a current specialist, they can check how they want to be involved in our program. So whether they want to be a working group member, or whether they want to serve on the CBLS, exam development, if they want to become a dual specialist, become a certified specialist in another area. If they're not certified, they can request more information about the program or request to be added to a list of interested applicants to get information on the next legal specialist exam. So at these events, we hope to be able to get more quantitative data on how effective our outreach initiatives are. So I know that in the past, when Adrian has been able to go to these events, he will literally get people's bar numbers and has been able to track their progress from the moment from the event to even when they got certified. But now we're going to be able to have a more seamless progress or process of that and have a digital footprint of that. So what's unique about the legal specialization program is that even though someone might be interested then and there, they can't really participate in the program right then and there. It is a long process to become certified. So although a new attorney can see and hear about the program at an event, it's going to take at least 5 years to gain that experience. But we can have that information, and when those 5 years pass, we can be part of helping them take that exam and sharing that information that they need to help them be part of the program. So the QR code is going to help us just track all that information to see how effective our outreach is. And although the interest form does give me analytics, it only gives me analytics if people complete the form and submit it. The dynamic QR code is going to give me analytics on how often people are interacting with the form. So the QR code, we hope to have it on flyers as well. So we can see if people are interacting not only with the banner, but we can see if people are interacting with the flyers because we can see the timestamps if people are interacting with the QR code outside of the conference times. So we'll know that they're interacting with the flyer. So those are just one of the initiatives that we're taking coming into these conferences in the fall and winter that are coming up. So I'd like to invite any conversation or discussion or suggestions that you might have, either for the interest form or questions that we could ask potential applicants that might be more effective to grab their interest or anything.
Another question too, if you go back to the calendar, are there any events that we're missing? Looks like we have a couple family ones. Dana, I don't know if you're going to any of those. If you were,
I'm going in the San Diego one.
okay, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to link up, if you're speaking, I don't know if you're speaking or if you're just attending, but if you're speaking,
Just
if you could put out a
attending.
quick announcement, I don't know.
I'm friends with the with the president of the SDFLBA, so I'll let her know we need a shout out.
Got it.
Anyone else going to any of these meetings or conferences? I am going to the criminal defense seminar in San Francisco. I've got it on my calendar.
Attendee or speaker?
Attendee.
Gotcha. Still good.
Yeah.
Are we missing any? Michael, are we missing any bankruptcy events or?
This was it next week, American Bankruptcy Institute Southwest. So see what I can do. Actually, I'll be there this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so I can see what I can do to spread the word there for our Californians.
Mm-hmm.
The bankruptcy, I think, well, we lost a few members, I think, recently. Our practice specialization shrunk a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think if you look at the annual report, there's been a decrease in nearly every area. So, you know, and it's a combination of like retirements. So it's a good time for us to coordinate on outreach. So that'll be very helpful. So if you are in attendance at any of these events, you look out for us. And then also, as we've already discussed, opportunities to get the word out there about the program.
All right. Any other questions or discussion before we close the open session? All right. At this time, we will close the open session. There are no closed session business. And would like to thank all of you. I've enjoyed my 5 years on this board and wish all of you the best going forward. And it is
You too.
closing at 11:12 a.m. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jeff.
Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.